Hello and welcome back to Elite Prep HK. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fine. I really wanted to thank you people for showing such an overwhelming response on our videos on our YouTube channel. So today we'll be looking at some of the tips and tricks to score level 7 in biology IA. Yes, you heard that right. Okay. So without wasting any further time, let's get to the point. The first thing you have to consider is choosing a very good research question. Whenever you're planning to write down your internal assessment, make sure the choice of the question should be very good. Okay, now how do you define a good research question? Here we have some of the questions given below, as you all can see, right? So the research question should be composed of a very simple and straightforward structure. Okay, it should be like composed of to what extent does your IV, which is independent variable, affects your DV, which is your dependent variable. Okay, so let's take this question into consideration, like how does exposure to sulfur dioxide affect the growth and development of the Phaseolus vulgaris common bean plants. Okay, so it's a good research question. Okay, so your lab report or your lab report title should be your research question, where it includes your independent variable which you are changing and your dependent variable, okay, which you are measuring. So you can also like put your question in this way, like how does the IV impact or influence the DV? Okay, so there are like some of the examples of the research questions, as you can see over here, like how does caffeine concentration in beverages affect reaction time in the humans? Okay, so technically this is very first part of your biology IA, and this perhaps is going to leave a very good impression on the examiner if your question is very well defined, clear and focused. Okay, so can you point out any error into this question? What is the error over here? Okay, you can just pause the video and look for the error. The main error over here is this: the scientific name is not used over here. Okay, so make sure you research question, if you're like naming any organism, any plant, make sure you write down the biological scientific name of that particular organism. Okay, and that name is, the first name is the name of the genus, which is like Homo, and the second name is the name of species, like Sapiens. Okay, so animals, plants, or any other organism, they should be written in italics using scientific language. So this is the first piece of advice for all of you who ever are planning to write down your IA. Here we have some of the other examples of the research questions which are taken out randomly. Now, if you just focus on this very first research question to determine how much water a plant needs to grow. So do you think this is a good research question? Of course not, right? So the first impression, you're going to lose your marks if you are putting the question in this way. Like, so the question is too general and it is not scientifically precise. Okay, so it should be like, it should specify what type of plant, how water will be measured, so it is like measurable. Okay, so make this thing very clear that you are entirely focusing on the two main common things. One is your IV and one is your DV. Okay, now we have another question over here: to measure the growth of beans under varying amounts of sulfur dioxide exposure. Again, this question does not specify like how much amount of sulfur dioxide exposure and how the growth will be measured. Either you're measuring the height of the plant, either you're measuring the leaf count, the biomass, or any other thing, the size of length of the roots, and all that, etc. So you need to put more details in order to make it well structured research question. Similarly, we have some other examples over here to determine if all enzymes work in a same way. Again, it is a wrong question because it is like overly broad question. So different enzymes have different properties and they work on like specific substrates. So question should focus on specific enzyme and how it reacts to certain conditions or inhibitors. Okay, so ultimately we have some of the examples of the correct research questions. Okay, so the question should be clearly showing a correlation between a dependent and the independent variable. If you want to determine the effect of different light intensities on the rate of photosynthesis in Lodia densa by measuring the production of oxygen. Now the question comes here that why this question is considered a correct. Okay, why it is correct, right? So as you can see, with that a student is measuring the effect of different length, different light intensities. So this is what he is changing. Okay, this is what he's changing. Okay, so this is the independent variable, on the rate of photosynthesis, right? And he is measuring the rate of photosynthesis by changing this light intensity. So this is the dependent variable, okay? Dependent variable, right? And he is also like specified in this question that he is measuring the production of oxygen gas. Okay, the oxygen gas which is like being produced is also measured, so it is ultimately a correct research question. Ultimately, we have some other examples of the research questions. So the first part is that the things you have to focus while you're writing down your IA, the choice of a very good research question, and your lab title should be your research question, where it includes your independent variable, your dependent variable, which should be clear and like quite focused. Okay, so let's move to the second part of your research, second part of your IA, that is the background research. Okay, so I have reviewed multiple research papers, multiple IAs of the students, and this is the part where most of them struggle a lot. Okay, so whenever you're planning to write down your background information, keep this thing in mind that you have only word limit of 3000 words. So you should be making very good choice in order to utilize these words. Okay, so you shouldn't be like wasting a lot of your words and putting a lot of irrelevant background information. The examiner is going to cut that out and you will not be credited, right? So you are expecting that you may score level 7, but ultimately your level falls to 5 or 4. Okay, so the background should be related to the scientific topic you are conducting your investigation. So it has to be related to the scientific topic. Okay, and it should at least contain 3 to 4 paragraphs, right? So this is the basic criteria that you should like focus on, that it should contain 3 to 4 paragraphs, and it shouldn't be like going beyond that, right? If you're like putting a lot of words into it, you will ultimately talking irrelevant stuff. Okay, so avoid, just cut that out. Okay, so it should explain the science behind your lab experiment, like why you have decided to do and what are you doing in your lab experiment, and like what are you trying to figure out over here. Okay, so it should have sufficient scientific resources that are reliable and relevant. Now, whenever you're writing down a research background, just keep this thing in your mind that whatever you're putting it, right, whether it is coming from you, if it is coming from you, or either you're like taking it from some other external sources, right, make sure you paraphrase it. Okay, so paraphrasing is very important, because if your research paper or if your IA gets plagiarized, ultimately you will not be getting your DP, a diploma program. Okay, you will not be able to get your diploma. So ultimately keep this thing in mind that it is free of plagiarism, and always include in-text citations. Okay, for example, you take a statement, right, whether you're taking it from any other research paper, from any other website, any resources, any journal, any scientific book, so make sure you take that and you have to put in-text citation over there, right, along with that. Okay, so the last paragraph of your research should be about the purpose of your lab, that why you have decided to take this topic. Okay, and what are you doing in this, why are you doing this, and what are you trying to find out. So all these things should be addressed in your very first in your background. Okay, in your background information, right? Now whenever you're planning to take out some of the scientific information from any other website or resources, like you have to choose which source is a reliable source and which is not reliable source. Okay, so what we usually do, we simply Google that out, and whatever is there in the first tab, we copy that down and paste it in our IA. So technically you're not supposed to get any marks for that. Okay, so make sure from wherever like you're sourcing things, make sure that you're choosing something from the reliable sources. So reliable sources include .org, as you can see over here. There's some examples of the reliable sources. Okay, so .org, .net, .gov.edu. Okay, so these are technically all our reliable sources. And .com is not always a reliable source. It is not always a reliable source, because most of the information is like from the different people. Okay, so make sure wherever you're like sourcing things. Okay, so make sure you should know very clearly that who the person is saying, like what is its background information, what is his degree, did he like done any of the research work or anything like that. Okay, and you have to paste that link in myweb.com. This is the website which can generate free citations on MLA or APA format. We can do a separate video on that as well. Okay, that how to generate citations. So you have to put that link over there in this website, and it will generate a citation, right? For example, Darwin. Let's say we have an example of Darwin, 2009 to 2011. And said this in the book of A Theory of Evolution, right, etc. So it will give you the name of the author, the year in which it's said, and the source from where it is like taken. Okay, so you have to use this properly in text citation. Okay, now here we have a quick comparison of level 3 background. Like one student has got level 3. We're gonna review it together and today, and we'll see that what are the areas of improvement in this. Okay, and here we have level 7 background of the student. So let's do a quick comparison that although the topic is same for both the students, let's have a glance at this paragraph over here. Sulfur dioxide is a type of a gas that is mainly released into the atmosphere by factories and cars. It is very harmful and can completely stop plants from growing. Plants like Physiolus vulgaris, common bean. Okay, this is the first error the student has made, right? As I told you, the first name has to be written in capitals, and the first name is the name of the genus, right? And the second name is the name of the species, right? Vulgaris. And it has to be written in italics, right? That absorbs the sulfur dioxide from their roots, which directly affects their ability to produce flowers. Sulfur dioxide can destroy all the nutrients in the soil, making it possible for the plants to thrive in polluted areas. Additionally, sulfur dioxide exposure can cause acid rain, which is dangerous for the human skin and can melt. Now, as you see, the student is talking too general, and over here that it is an also blunder that sulfur dioxide through their roots. Okay, so this is technically you have to whenever like you're talking about the mechanism, make sure it should be like correct mechanism. Okay, so it can cause acid rain, dangerous to the human skin. Now ultimately he is focusing on the plants, and why is it like talking about the human skin and other things like that. Okay, so here we have again a major blunder over here, right? And there is no in text citation, right? It means that he's copying someone else's work and putting and presenting it as his or her own work. Okay, so this is incorrect mechanism, so you should avoid that. Okay, so let's now look at the errors, some of the errors that like the student has made. The first is like claiming plants absorb sulfur dioxide through their roots. So technically this is an incorrect mechanism of the uptake. Okay, so gaseous exchange is always done through the plants, right? Secondly, suggesting sulfur dioxide can destroy all nutrients in the soil. Again, this is exaggerated claim, right? So, and the couple of information which is like irrelevant in the text, as you can see, that mentioning sulfur dioxide melting metals. So this is like unrelated to the plant biology. Like the ultimately the student is talking about the effect of sulfur dioxide on the growth, right, of the plants, but here he is like putting it melting metals, right? So not related. So technically this falls under the category of irrelevant information. So linking the topic to droughts and famine without proper context, discussion about the fertilizers without reference to sulfur dioxide exposure. So all these things will ultimately impact negatively on your IA, right? So appropriate choice of information to be taken from the reliable sources and in-text citation along with the scientific naming of an organism. Okay, here we have a level 7 paragraph. Let's have a glance at this paragraph. Okay, so sulfur dioxide is a gaseous pollutant that significantly impacts the plant physiology and development. Now it originates from the natural sources, blah blah blah. And here is the main thing. Here is the reference over here. So guy has quoted a reference over here. Okay, so and one more thing, as you can see over here, that is um, okay, once released into the atmosphere, it can dissolve to form the acidic compounds. Very well written. And you see the name over here. The name is written very correctly. It is written in a true scientific format. The first name is the name of the genus, and the second name is the name of the species, which are italics, written in italics. And there is a sufficient in-text citation and a very clear structure and formatting, right? So this guy scored level 7. Now here I have a task for you people. Now you will have to quickly you can like pause the video and you can read this paragraph, right? Read this paragraph out and tell me what are the errors inside this, and where do you think will this guy be rated, right? Out of level 7, where do you think will this guy be rated, right? And you can just pause the video for 30 seconds and then you can like read this out and you can just quickly talk about it. Okay, so I'm continuing and I'm resuming the video because I'm not taking your class at the moment, so I'm just resuming the video. So let me just point out some of the errors into it. The first thing, the first error that he has made, like no citation is there. The second thing over here is it is written as a first person, like I read, I did, I don't, right? So second blunder that this guy has made over here in this paragraph, that is never write as a first person. Okay, this leaves a very bad impression, a very childish impression on the examiner, that you're writing as a first, like I did and I did that, and you know. So write as a first, never write as a first person. Then we have another error over here, as you all can see, as you all can figure out. There is no in-text citation. Okay, that is already mentioned. And there is a lot of irrelevant stuff. As you can see, my mom grows in the backyard. So there is a lot of irrelevant information, right? So quickly review all of it. Okay, and I think again the guy is talking about things, so make sure you should not be using such words in your IA, like I think, I thought, maybe, might be. So never use these words. Examiners want, what is the beauty of IB is that we are promoting inquiry based learning and a confident learning environment with confident learners, right? And if you're using these ambiguous words like I think, I did, so again examiner will cut out your marks. Okay, so avoid using I think. Okay, so never use such words. Right, so you can write here I believe. Okay, you can add this I believe over there, right? So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'll see you in part 2 of the same video. Till then, take very good care. Just like, share and subscribe before you leave. Okay, thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.